Please be seated. Today's reading from the Gospel of Matthew is in stark contrast to the readings over the last few weeks. Jesus, in the past few weeks, has been talking about the cost of discipleship, the certainty of prosecution, of conflict, of suffering, and of division for those who follow him. It is a remembrance of take up your cross and follow me. And today, his tone changes. Jesus today has an element of sweetness and lightness, of easy burdens and easy yokes, of rest and comfort. And as Americans, we might feel this is more like it. Gentle masters are much more to our liking, if we have to have a master at all. But the reality is the truth behind these readings is much more complex than we probably know. First of all, the primary thrust of who Jesus is talking to is not directed towards people who are experiencing everyday problems in life. Not, their children aren't behaving, they might be unemployed, they might be sickness. Those are things that Jesus cares about, yes. But that is not who Jesus is talking to in this passage. The people that Jesus is talking to in today's passage are those who are religiously exhausted. Okay? And for those who are on a religious quest. They are seeking God and a relationship with God, and he is calling to himself those who have been exhausted by the Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees and the high priests and all those rules. For you see, in Jesus' time, a yoke was synonymous with the law of Moses. The law of Moses was the yoke. Those details and minutiae of the law and legalism of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the high priests, the rabbi, the temple. All that stuff that they had to do. Those demands that they have to do this right and that right in order to matter to God, in order to be a decent person, in order to be loved or counted significant. That's who he is speaking to. And today, Jesus says, no more. Okay? That's who Jesus is talking to in this passage. Jesus rejects that yoke. That ancient yoke of keeping the rules, keeping the laws, doing this, doing that, right. For the people who carry that with them, who carry that burden with them, are the people who are labored and are heavy burdened. And it leads to a religious life of fearful obedience. And that's no way to live, is it? That's no way to live with the good news of our Lord. To say to your child, or to your friend, or to your spouse, or to anyone, that you will only love them if they do what is right, is to ensure a sick and twisted relationship. It hurts everybody involved. And so Jesus comes today to say, no more. And so in response to that, besides just saying no more, what else does Jesus say? Jesus says, come to me. Come to me. Not to a new law, not to a new teaching, not to a secret interpretation or a hidden loophole, not a book, not a list, but to me, to Jesus. Come to Jesus himself. That's what Jesus is saying today in the gospel. In essence, Jesus is saying, if you seek God, if you seek love, if you seek a life that makes some sense, if you want to make an understanding of this crazy world that you find yourselves in and not be destroyed, if you want to be who God created you to be, then come to me. Come to Jesus. It's all about relationship. It's a call to be in relationship with Jesus and a relationship to the community that continues Jesus' life and ministry. And we know that as the gathered people of God here, the church. When our group was in Jerusalem, we spent more time except for our rooms and the bus, than in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is one of the, if not the holiest site in all of Christendom. And it is the holiest site because it sits where Golgotha is and where Jesus' tomb is. So you can imagine, thousands and thousands of people come into that church daily, stand in line for hours to pray at the site of Golgotha and to pray in the tomb. And this church is managed by 6 Christian denominations. See if I can get it right. The Greek Orthodox, the Armenian Orthodox, the Roman Catholics, the Syriacs, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, and the Coptics. There, I got it. So, as you can imagine, 6 Christian denominations trying to agree on anything, right, is going to be a challenge. And consensus is the rule of the day. So very few things are decided. It's one of the reasons why the church looks the way it does if you ever go there and see it, or you see it in pictures. But in the year 1187, something very powerful and amazing happened with a consensus decision. And the problem that they were having was, who's going to open up the church? Who's going to close the church? Who's going to lock the door? Who's going to unlock the door? They'd been fighting about it for who knows how long. And in 1187, they came to a decision, and they awarded the task of the keeper of the keys to a Muslim family by the name of Jowdah. Now just think for a second what that means. A Muslim family keeps the keys of the holiest site in Christendom. And how many of you knew about that? I didn't know about it before I left. Nobody knew about it. I mean, Randy says he knew. Did you know about it before we left? Oh, okay. None of us know about it. I mean, that says a lot about the world we live in today, doesn't it? If they could do that in 1187 and continue it now in 2017, then there must be something there. This person comes and gets the ladder and crawls up the high door, unlocks it, sits down, and he sits in the narthex the entire day. And then when it's time to lock it up, climbs back up on the ladder, locks it, comes back the next day. So the Christians couldn't agree, and so they hired a Muslim family to do this. And stayed in that family since 1187. I like to look at that as a symbol of grace, right? That the Christian church back then could come to such an amazing decision. And it still continues today. And I'd like to broadcast that to the world because it really says something wonderful. But I guarantee you it wasn't easy. And in most of our translations of the Bible, Jesus calls his yoke easy, which sort of diminishes it, sort of maybe makes it, I think it's an unfortunate English word, if you will, because it makes everything sound like it's a snap, that there wasn't any difficulty in things. And so the New English Bible translation, I think, is better. It says, my yoke is good to bear. There's a little bit more there, isn't there? A little bit more. Bear. Sometimes what we bear is difficult, but it's also good. The point is not that this yoke, the Lord's call to relationships, makes no difference or asks nothing of us. We know that that is contrarian, any of us who try to follow Jesus. But I think what it says is it says that it's the right fit. It's the right size. We heard Emery talk about her yoke that hurt the back of her neck. Think of the yoke as being perfectly curved to your neck so that it is no pain in that it helps you to carry all those heavy burdens. To come to Him is to discover what can be seen as a frantic and desperate task. Life with God is not an earned reward. It is simply grace. To come to Him is to discover that the task of getting it all correct is replaced by that absolute gift of God's grace. Now, all the strong stuff that we've been hearing about the past 3 weeks doesn't get vaporized in this passage today. It's still there. But I think it's good to know that the yoke that Christ offers helps us to bear all those things that is the cost of discipleship, to be a Jesus follower. We are called to this new yoke, not to a law or to a set of rules, but to a person and a community that celebrates and builds up that person. And in this religious quest, the greatest journey of human existence finds its richest satisfaction and deepest fulfillment in Jesus Himself. Come to me if you seek God, if you seek life, I will give you rest, for my yoke is good to bear.